Alright, welcome back to Game 10 of Lucid's 2022 tournament, where we are playing Phlegra. It is turn 73. All I have to say about this one is, come on, Earthquake Trap. I'm going to jump into it immediately. Though I can see that there is an assault on our fortifications, so Earthquake Trap failed. Yeah, the army's hung out. So Atlantis did choose to assault. There goes the Doom. There goes a couple of Earthquakes. It looks like mostly things are still here. Let's see. Team-colored squares. A decent amount of damage, right? So, like, yeah, still a lot of damage on the mages. But, yeah, we didn't really kill a lot of people. So now it's just a question. There's some concern about HP route. Yeah, and of course, we couldn't make our... tyrants fly. They have no feet, so you can't give them flying boots. So yeah, here's the firestorm. It looks like one of them took damage, probably from an earthquake. Like, they may have interrupted each other, so we probably didn't get out all the earthquakes. I didn't really talk about how, it's kind of hard to stack like a lot of earthquakes. I was a little bit worried about an HP route, so in some ways this is kind of good for us, other than the fact that, like, we're probably going to lose 2 tyrants now. But, we'll make this battle go longer. I don't see any Soul Vortex. Yes, he probably didn't even have it in his script, actually, and since he went Berserk, he wasn't gonna get it up. We kind of need the other guy to Berserk, right? Because, like, now we've taken, enough losses, right? Yeah, armies of Phlegra are routed, right? So if this guy gets off the field, hopefully, yeah, I think he's asleep. If he can just get surrounded, that would be great. But yeah, this isn't looking fantastic. Yeah, there's still a lot of mages back here. Some of them are retreating, though. And the fact that there's an assault after this, right, is definitely good news at this point, I think. Yeah, our other tyrant retreats, so I guess that kind of works out. I mean, I feel like if the firestorm was up for a bit longer, I don't know if they managed to get their protection buff off. Well, let's take a look and see what kind of damage we did. So we lost one of our tyrants. That's obviously pretty painful. The rest of the losses were expected, like some yetis, shackled mages. These guys, I think, were diseased. Our pretender survived, so that's nice. She can fly, so her earthquake was guaranteed to not be interrupted. In terms of what we pulled off, though, we only killed 10 of the Forgiving Fathers. Still 30 of those guys left, though there were some retreats. Didn't kill any of the cap-onlys. Weren't really expecting to kill these guys. They have even more hit points, and a lot of them, well, I don't know about a lot of them, but they were more likely to be geared. We did manage to deal, like, significant, though certainly not catastrophic damage to their chaff. Yeah, and it does look like they managed to get at least some of their units back as soulless. So, in terms of raw damage, kind of a failure. But, I mean, 10 of these Forgiving Fathers is not insignificant. And then when you couple it with the fact that I think a decent amount of Atlantis' stuff retreated, let's take a look at their assaulting force and see what's left. Unfortunately, okay, so it's not as much retreated as I had hoped. So we do still have a fellow in here, right? Like, yeah, we do still have... I'm not sure what that was. It looks... yeah, here's Pillar of Fire. Yeah, whatever battlefield-wide that was. Yeah, we have a route almost immediately. No, these guys must be on attack closest. They're going after, yeah, some air elementals. So this is the situation, right, where, all the damage that we dealt is relevant. Atlantis did us a huge favor by assaulting this turn instead of being more cautious. And like I said, that was kind of my hope, because things have been going so badly for us. I could certainly see where Atlantis is coming from. I mean, they had absolutely crushed us in that last fight. And then also, they'd wiped out a number of our super combatants with, relative ease, just brushed them aside. So, I can definitely see where Atlantis is coming from. This is an incredibly powerful army. They've been rolling us, like, right? They have other problems. The same issue that we have in terms of, like, Utgard is right on our border, right? And Atlantis was in a 3v1. Ulm's war is about to, like, wind down. Like, that was one of the people they were fighting. Like, they have every reason to want to finish this fight quickly as well, if not more reason than us. But, that played into our hands here. Now, unfortunately, there's still a lot of mages that are retreating. Like I said, we didn't cut retreat routes. I just didn't have anything in place. And frankly, the monolith can patrol. And, like, even with our tyrants, I don't know if we really have the kitting to kill a monolith quick enough. But yeah, it is unfortunate because a lot of these mages I think are going to survive. We do have like some advance and cast spells, and a lot of these guys are fatigued out because they were communion slaves. Yeah, so I mean the mage losses are still going to be significant, but not maybe as catastrophic as I would hope. I guess the other important thing to mention is that like we spent so many gems on those 2 battles, right? So like even though this is a victory, it's still a costly victory for us. In terms of units, we lose, Long Dead Horseman. That's relevant. That's a lot of gems down the drain for us, not even counting the gems that we're, spending. We burn out the Communion, of course. We are starting to run a little low on these Shackled Mages. So yeah, we're going to have to switch our forts up. We're actually going to have to recruit some mages here. Otherwise, no mage losses and like no other losses really. Though again, I mean, other than the majority of our chaps, though the crossbowmen actually do manage to get some kills. On Atlantis' side of things, it is fairly catastrophic just in terms of like pure raw numbers. There's not much left of this army. Now that said, again, a lot of what survives are mages. But yeah, actually we got more mages than I thought, especially the cap onlys. So like 3 of their cap onlys survive. Of the Forgiving Fathers, 9 of them survive. And I mean, that's pretty much it. A few like scattered unit types survive here and there, but mostly this army is gone. And, Atlantis is a long way from out, but I think this probably ends any hope that they had of winning this game. And like I said, this is the moment now to, open peace negotiations with them. Like, yeah, like, right, are we going to make any gains against Utgard? No. Could we have some fun battles against them? Maybe. But, definitely, like, right, it's like, okay, this would also be the moment to go on the offensive against Atlantis. And, like, we'll see. Maybe if Ulm's going to jump in. I don't know. I just feel like it's like we're getting drawn into the same thing. It's like, oh, but it'll be a 3v1. We can pick up territory. I'm kind of sick of this war in a lot of ways. And I feel like after this Atlantis, like, right, like, this just has been really terrible for both of us. We both wanted peace at different points, so like maybe now is the time. I mean, obviously the time is long past, but if we can get that fort back, like, I don't know, maybe we'll just go to like pre-war borders or something. I don't know. I'll have to think on that one. Because, I mean, digging them out of the forts is going to have all the same, like, Wind to Death hasn't gone anywhere. They have plenty of other units. But enough complaining. That is a critical victory. If we didn't win that victory like that, that would have been lights out for us. So let's go take a look at the rest of this turn. We do finish research and evocation level 9. Nothing else in the queue. You can see the focus was definitely on that battle. We'll have to update our research. But yeah, Flames from the Sky actually somewhat relevant, particularly if Utgard tries to bring a lot of their human mages. That said, they're an experienced enough player and they've had enough time to prepare. It would not surprise me if the majority of their mages, had enough fire resistance that they'd be okay. But it will at least prevent them from bringing like an absolutely massive Skelly spam communion or whatever. There's a number of things that those communions can do. And if they do try to bring something like that to bear, we may have to do some trading in terms of getting all the fire boosters that we need. But Flames from the Sky is something that like late age Phlegra can do pretty effectively. And you know what? I said that we didn't cut retreat routes, but that's kind of a lie. I forgot at the last minute. Had this diseased Oppressor Archon, he's an air random, gave him some air gems. I figured, hey, if Atlantis isn't patrolling, wow, and they're not. That's definitely a little disrespectful because this is their only retreat route, and they have the monolith there. The monolith definitely can patrol. That said, maybe we should have committed more. I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, right? I just figured we'd run into the monolith and like that would be that. Yeah, I think this is going to work out for us. So, that whole discussion about what survived for Atlantis, there were no survivors. So yeah, kind of shocked that they didn't cover their only retreat route at all. But again, like things had been going really badly for us. So, I guess, they really, that definitely feels like my assessment that, they felt confident was correct. Because like if you're not covering your only retreat route, then you're pretty confident of victory. Which in fairness, the last battle that they fought, that particular army fought, it had no retreat routes. Had it lost that previous fight, it would have been destroyed. But they lost like 7 units or something instead. We witnessed a couple of horror attacks, both against enemies of Utgard, I'm assuming. Actually, no, maybe not. So maybe Ulm and Marignon are fighting now. It's hard to say, right? Because horrors can come from anybody that can cast it. And like all three of those nations, Late Age Marignon, Ulm, and Utgard, can cast Send Horror. So, or I think these are lesser horrors. Actually, I think Mictlan can cast it as well, right? So who knows? Horrors are loose. They are successful both times. We'll have to take a look at those provinces. Usually people send in like a scout or something to actually take it because the horrors don't stick around. They're not into real estate. Ooh. Okay, yeah, this is a real serious army from Mictlan here, quite possibly their capital, and this is a somewhat serious army from Ulm that, is sieging some fortification. A lot of Fiends of Darkness. These guys are probably mercenaries. This seems kind of light in terms of troop commitment. All right, there's a lot of squishy mages here who, probably going to be forming a communion and could be pretty effective. But I don't know. There's a pretty good chance, I feel like, that they get overwhelmed just from the pure numbers that Mictlan's brought. We can also see one of the archdemons here. Yeah, maybe going to be casting darkness. I mean, this many Fiends of Darkness in this setup, that kind of looks like darkness to me. Also, their immortal fellow, nice, gave him some boots of quickness. So, sort of a mini thug, although a little light in terms of the equipment. What kind of sword? Yeah, he's got just a regular greatsword. He does have life drain, magic damage attack. We see a vampire count in there. Ooh, one of the kings of Earth. So, they're going to have protection buff. So, yeah, definitely a very serious army. The protection buff is going to be a big deal because the Fiends of Darkness are really going to like that. But, in terms of raw numbers, Mictlan definitely, well, actually, it's kind of hard to tell because these guys don't pack in quite as tight. But still, that's a lot of beast bats, a lot of murder cats, a lot of mages too. A lot of little mages here, a lot of blood slaves that have been brought out, a lot of mage summons, some cap-only mages. Both sides have brought a lot to this fight. Well, let's take a look and, see what they're doing. Yeah, Sabbath is going up. That's probably on Mictlan's side, though I suppose it could be on Ulm's side as well. Let's see, yeah, some Creeping Dooms probably on Mictlan's side, I would imagine. Looks like a few Fiends of Darkness might have gone in early. So yeah, we have Natural Storm coming from Ulm, and we have Howl coming from Mictlan, so that's going to add to their preponderance of units. The Storm is probably to prevent flying, because I was a little confused. I'm like, well, Mictlan doesn't do that much fire magic, but yeah, it's probably to prevent the flyers from getting all up in Ulm's business, and I think that's a really good idea. That was one of the things I was worried about. Is their mages getting overwhelmed? So on Mictlan's side, looks like probably, yeah, mass protection, along with probably Will of the Fates, mass regeneration. This is maybe Strength of Giants, but also possibly Rush of Strength, which would be for everything on the battlefield, but there are definitely some strength buffs in play. No resistances, really, it looks like, because I believe these guys have poison resistance built in. Mictlan probably also got a Doom off. And then on Ulm's side, let's see, no protection buff yet, it looks like. But it does look like they managed to get Serpent's Blessing up. Otherwise, not seeing a lot of buffs yet, possibly relying on that communion. Yeah, so the Storm didn't go up quite quick enough, and the Murder Cats have arrived. They're all going to be lucky. Yeah, we have some point-blank spell casting. That looked like Will of the Fates. Yeah, so now everyone is lucky on Ulm's side, but, you can see, relying, I'm assuming it's a communion is the reason it was delayed, and that can make a huge difference, because a lot of Ulm's stuff is already dead. It would have been nice if they were already lucky, and really not sure, what happened. I don't see that King of Earth anymore. Wow, yeah, he is dead, and he didn't really manage to get up to too much, and, I mean, he didn't even know what hit him. If I had to guess, I would say probably a bunch of life for life spams. And that's one of the dangers of using really high HP commanders. I mean, I don't know. There's risks to using everything because life for life, I think a lot of spells tend to go for high HP mages, right? So if he's the guy that has the most HP on the field, then all the life for lifes are gonna get drawn to him. On the other hand, it's yeah, then put it on a human. But there's so many ways that can go wrong. But yeah, this is an absolute rout for Ulm. I have to say this actually went even worse for them than I was expecting, significantly worse for them than I was expecting. Yeah, that was indeed in Mictlan, and Mictlan loses almost nothing. You can see, the reason that they're known is the Murder Cats. 186 kills for these guys. No mage losses for Mictlan, and then Ulm loses pretty much everything. So it looks like I might have been too quick to discount Mictlan. While, I still think that they don't really have a chance at winning this game. Like, they've been whittled down too much. I don't think they're as close to being knocked out as I thought, because, this is definitely going to provide opportunity to go raid stuff and keep a good chunk of this together. Ulm in particular is going to be scrambling. And with Marignon probably refocusing, although, maybe I guessed wrong in terms of Utgard making moves, but if they are making moves, then Marignon may need to refocus. Mictlan, I think, actually a decent ways from being eliminated. And that was a pretty impressive battle. And then this will not be an impressive battle because we left... Oh, actually, we do have some province defense investment here. Probably just hoping... Oh, this is not the province I'm thinking of. This is, raiding group that's pushing deeper into our territory in the south. And we really just don't have a lot down there. But, of course, having just won that major battle, we freed up a bunch of our tyrants. So dealing with a group like this, not really going to be a problem. Just a question of, getting our tyrants down there. But we're going to lose this PD investment. Which is always sad, though we don't have to pay upkeep on this guy who we weren't able to collect from ages ago. You always got to look at the silver linings. So it looks like Ulm and Marignon are the ones who are fighting. So I did get it wrong. Yeah, this is kind of like a natural thing that can happen. Obviously the Wraith Lord is going to win this. But anytime like two people are both fighting over the same territory, it's pretty easy to then like come into conflict. But yeah, I have to say that I'm kind of surprised. Ulm, it was kind of questionable where they were going to go, but like Atlantis feels like a pretty good choice. There is a throne that on the border now between Ulm and Atlantis, that throne that we held that's unfortified. So, you can make some argument that is like, well, attacking Atlantis, like, is that really going to put you closer to winning? Because it's not like Atlantis is much of a threat of winning, especially after this turn. But even prior to this turn, I think Atlantis was probably like the second weakest player in the game, ahead of ourselves. Whereas like, Marignon is kind of a contender to win. On the other hand, of course, Marignon did mention that they had some non-aggression pacts ending. Possibly it was Marignon that ended the non-aggression pact, right? Maybe this is not a war. Oh, wait, we already saw this one. Maybe this was not a war that, Ulm chose. And then, we get raided in a lot of places. We're probably going to lose the majority of these. Because, I think this is actually in Atlantis' cap circle, and, we put in some PD just so that we wouldn't get embarrassed by any more birds, but here's a bunch of Forgiving Fathers, cap only, some Skelly spam. Not going to work out for those woodsmen. This battle, I think we actually moved somebody out. Is there a tyrant? No, this is a different cave than what I was thinking of. Living Water, very nice. So, just some elemental spamming, and it should work out. We lose another province. So even though we won the major battle there, we are, kind of losing the raiding war. Okay, I think this is where we move the tyrant in. Yeah. And our Shade Male fellow, who, sure, he's going to make him ethereal. So hopefully he doesn't die. This is a fairly light raid. Atlantis isn't really going to mind losing this. But also, hopefully, we won't actually, lose our guy who shouldn't have ever been in this battle. So it looks like it works out for both of us. But we do at least, hold this province. So that is nice, particularly because, we've been losing a decent number of other provinces. And then, of course, Marignon and Mictlan still fighting. So this is Marignon assaulting with the Thug. There's not a whole lot in here, though, there are a few mages. Yeah, these guys are just Blood 1. They haven't been given any blood slaves, so I guess Mictlan just looked at it and it's like, there's really not a whole lot that Blood 1 can really pull off against these guys. I might be tempted to, I think you can spam like Leech with, Blood 1, so like that might, like she jumps in and gets hit by a bunch of leeches. I don't know, I'm definitely no blood expert, but Marignon comes away with that without too much difficulty. And then this is also going to be the empty Fort Assault. So this is that palisade that, we chose not to contest because we were busy with the earthquake business. We just don't really quite have the forces. Yeah, and considering how much success Atlantis has had in elsewhere, like this kind of stuff is going to encourage them. It's going to make the negotiation a lot harder. We're probably stuck in this war realistically. We have some unexpected events. Well, this is no longer relevant, so it looks like Atlantis was trying to tee up for their next move. But other than the population that we lose, this doesn't really matter anymore. We find some Earth Gems. Hey, this is actually really nice. Because we're a little low on Earth Gems after all those earthquakes. And then we lose 3 scouts this turn. We are trying to, move through, get eyes on some thrones that we don't have, and there's so much blood hunting going on that's really hard to, I think these are all blood hunting operations that we're bumping into. So yeah, in a lot of ways, our information is getting more limited as everyone converts the world's population into demons. And I will catch you guys after the jump. All right, this is the situation and what we're doing about it. I did reach out to Atlantis and offered them peace on status quo terms. This is not a great deal for either of us, but I don't really think we're at a place where we're going to get a long-term agreement. So, there's going to be no non-aggression pact between us. I actually sent them a screenshot of what we have on our border, and essentially told them, look, let's just stop fighting for now. I'm going to redeploy, everything that I can to my thrones, try to defend against this. Once those attacks happen, we can restart our war, Atlantis and myself. And that, if by some miracle we do survive this with, units and mages left over, I definitely will resist, but probably they're just going to be facing, empty territory. There isn't really a good option for us here. I do think that, we could probably talk with Utgard. They don't care, I think, about taking our territory. We've seen with Atlantis, right? They just grabbed the throne. They weren't worried about picking up the rest of the territory. So, if survival was the only thing we were interested in, we could probably negotiate with Utgard to just abandon the thrones. But, that's just giving up the game so that we can last, an extra 5 or 10 turns. I would rather go down fighting, in a relevant way to the game state, rather than just limp along to the end of the game. So we're going to break out here. There's, just a few of our own Yetis that got stolen. We're going to pull off this fortification. We don't have any raids. We're pretty much just going to pull most of our, pretty much everything into this fort. We may actually want to split things up. Utgard did take Drain 3, and Evocation 9 is not top of the priority list, and Utgard doesn't have a lot of fire, but I do believe they have, the Golden Throne. Yeah, they do have the Golden Throne, right, which means that they get add-ups to the Golden Order. These guys can be up to Fire 3, and they can certainly be boosted to be able to cast Flames from the Sky. So that's a consideration. We don't have a lot of gems, but we may try to put up some domes, on these throne locations. But another way that we can, potentially do it is house some mages in a nearby fort. Unfortunately, that would force us into a field battle in order to utilize them, which we really kind of need the walls, right? I don't think we're going to be winning any battles against either of these armies in any scenario. But if we at least have the gate, then their numbers advantage is going to count for significantly less, especially considering, giants large as they are, it's even more difficult for them to squeeze through the gates. So we'll probably just gamble and, stuff as much as we can into those throne fortifications and just hope that, Utgard doesn't have that research yet. And like I said, if we manage to put the casters and the gems together, then we might try for some domes. We have access to Flames from the Sky, though we don't have the gems for it. Might try to do a little bit of trading with Ulm or Marignon. Marignon is probably the better option. Yeah, they have Eternal Pyre up, so Fire Gems probably not so tough for them to trade away. We don't currently have a Fire Booster, but we can forge one without, too much difficulty. Luckily, we can forge both of the Fire Boosters. And our Tyrants provide us some high-level fire casters, so it's relatively easy for us to cast Flames from the Sky. We just need to come up with the gems for it. Flames from the Sky, not going to be fantastic. These armies are pretty well constructed. Most of the chaff is fairly high hit point, and then, of course, the giants are high hit point. But the Mage Corps is not, right? So we can at least eliminate a lot of the mages. Now, all that said, I think there's a decent chance that we get attacked this coming turn. Still haven't had any non-aggression pact cancellation from Utgard, but, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they just broke it. This move here is, less threatening because there is a fortification here. So, even though, you generally don't station a massive army like this on someone's border, unless you're planning on attacking them relatively soon, the mages here can at least research, since there's probably a lab here, since there's a fortification. There's no fortification in this province. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's no lab there, but it's much less likely, which means that, right, these mages are just sitting around doing nothing, which, no player likes. And, considering that they're both in position, and then if they end the non-aggression pact, they have to wait 3 turns. So, why move these armies here if you're just going to have them sit around for 3 turns? So I suspect that, we probably won't be able to put up too much of a defense here because we're not going to be able to get our forces over in time. And there's a good chance that this force runs into a magic phase attack in a similar way that we saw Utgard launch their attack against Atlantis' throne. I think we should be able to beat off most magic phase attacks. There is some risk that the monolith shows up, and we'll see. We have a lot of mages here. We have some gems, but we're definitely not optimized to be killing a monolith. So yeah, we'll see. Perhaps my fears are unfounded and Utgard will, honor the non-aggression pact. But if so, then, this is kind of an odd stationing. Otherwise, we're moving this whole mage stack over. Like I said, we're going to be true to our word and, send everything over towards our thrones. This could generate an attack from Ulm, but probably not. They're still fighting Mictlan, and they are definitely fighting Marignan, right? That was not any kind of accidental bump or anything like that. They're sitting on top of two of Marignan's forts. Which is another reason that I kind of think that, Utgard is going to be launching their attack now, because now Marignan is definitely going to be busy. They were already somewhat busy fighting Mictlan, but, that war was winding down. But Ulm is, still pretty large, so, this new war is going to take a good amount of time. So that kind of covers, the international situation. Not really sure what Atlantis' plans are. I think after that major loss, kind of both of us are a bit exhausted from this war. So, I'm sure they're going to continue to play and, haven't given up or anything like that. But they're probably going to use this time to build up a little bit and, position themselves to take a lot of our land once, Utgard's attacks come. And, realistically, like I said, there was no way, even if we didn't make some agreement with Atlantis, I think that same scenario would play out, right? If we try to resist Utgard's invasion, that's going to require the majority of our stuff to have even a hope of success, which means we would leave ourselves extremely open to Atlantis. So, I think, again, the only way we could survive is just giving up the thrones to Utgard. That's not really something I'm interested in. Research-wise, we're going to go for Thaumaturgy 8. Which is a choice that I definitely cannot explain looking back at this. So we may change this next turn. We can't even cast most of this. Hydrophobia is actually kind of interesting. Fairly high area of effect, and those giants, they're probably one of the best tools to kill the giants. That said, magic resistance negates, and then you're going to have decent magic resistance, but not super high. So we might let this one finish. We've talked before about research. We don't really have anything pressing to be researching. Not to mention that we are fairly low on research. So there's a pretty good chance that we won't finish out anything before the major battles occur. So yeah, I think that more or less covers turn 73.